Okay. Yes, we're on record now. Yes, so like I was saying, hygiene is focused on every life science course to make sure that we have a knowledge of, not because you're not doing medicine and surgery, your course is not valid. No, you're valid as long as you have the right knowledge. You can apply whatever life science um knowledge you have to everything possible in life science. So in CBG, you have the opportunity to do a lot of things: forensics, embryology, going to research labs, clinical trial, bioinformatics, a whole lot. It just depends on the knowledge you have. And so today we are fortunate enough to have the embryologist to speak to us. She was supposed to be in our career topic, but because of time and schedule and all that, we had to postpone it today. So Ms. Esther Osato is here, our embryologist, to speak to us. Guys, let's welcome her. If you're excited to be in today's webinar, please just send an emoji, just send something exciting to show your excitement. Um, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have a lot of people who are interested in going to embryology, and I'm sure um, at the end of today's webinar, we have so much knowledge. Thank you, everyone. Wow, exciting, exciting, exciting. All right.
Okay, hello everyone. Hi. Well, it's good to know that everybody's excited to be here. Thank you, Davis, for the intro. I hope everybody can hear me and see me clearly. Please just signal if you can hear me clearly.
I can
Okay,
hear
great.
you, ma.
All right. All right. That's good to know. So it's nice to meet everyone. My name is Osato Hame Esther. I am a clinical embryologist by profession. I studied biochemistry during my undergraduate, and I am currently rounding up my master's degree in cell biology and genetics, UNILAC. So it's nice to meet every one of you. I was supposed to be in the career talk, I think sometime last month or January, but I couldn't make it. Fortunately, I had some other commitments, but it's good to be here, and I hope we can enjoy having each other's time. And I really like this class. This talk to be very, very interactive, please. I'm not here to lecture you. I'm just here to interact with you guys and for us to level um on the same plane. So I'm just going to be talking to you guys about the field, about everything in biology. Sorry, give me 1 second, please. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about everything in biology, what it entails, how you can go into the field, what you need to study, the background knowledge you need to have, how lucrative it is, the career progressions, and all of that. So I have a presentation for you. I'm going to try to share my screen. Just 1 second. Let me try to share my screen with you guys so that you can follow along. I don't know if you can. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see it from my end.
Okay. Okay, can everybody see it? All right. I think we're good. Let me make it full screen. Okay. Sorry. I want to be able to see both the presentation and the people that are online. I'm coming. I think I should do picture in picture. Picture in picture mode. Okay. All right. Just give me 1 second. Is everybody seeing its full screen? I don't think it's
It's
full
still,
screen yet.
it's not full screen yet.
It's not full screen.
Do
I'm
you mind
trying
if
to make it
if
full
I
screen. Okay, please do. Later. Okay, just try to help me make it full screen.
can you see my screen now?
Okay, I can see your screen. I'm waiting for the slides to come up.
Okay, let me.
Okay, great. So I can see the slide. The only problem now is how would you know when to move for me? But it's okay. Would figure it out. All right. So can everybody hear me clearly? Okay, great. So like I said before, my name is Osato Hame Esther. Osato Hame. People struggle to pronounce my name. I'm from Edo State, Benin. So if you can't pronounce it, just leave it as Osato Esther. And I'm a clinical embryologist. So I'll be taking you on the topic, the science of beginnings through an embryologist perspective. And like I said before, I would like this to be very interactive. So I'm going to be asking you guys a few questions. I want to believe that most of us here are from CBG, or are there other people from other departments here? Can everybody hear me? People are not responding.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do we have anyone here that's from other departments? All right, so it seems like we're mostly from CBG. So that's fine. But if we have other people from other departments, it's not a problem at all. Life science is quite broad, and you don't have to study CPG to become an embryologist. There's some other things that you can study to become an embryologist. So let me just move on. Can we please move on to the next slide? All right, so I'm going to be guided by this outline. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so let me do a brief introduction. This is me assuming that most of us are from cell biology and genetics department. And I want to believe that even from your basic knowledge of biology, you've taught you how fertilization occurs and how we develop as humans, from the fusion of the egg and the sperm forms a zygote. And from there, you develop embryos, and from there, a baby is born. And this process is known as embryogenesis. Embryogenesis is basically the development of an embryo from a fertilized egg. So the study of embryogenesis, the study of how embryos develop is basically known as embryology. So that's basically what embryology is. It's the study of how an embryo develops from a fertilized egg. So during this process, right, during embryonic development, the egg divides into, okay, so first of all, we have fertilization of the fusion of the egg and the sperm. It gives you a zygote. That's how you know that fertilization has occurred, right? So from there, other cellular divisions occur. I think most of us should know what mitosis is, right? Produce millions of cells, pass of cells from the eyes of the baby is born in multicellular connection. All right, so this is just an illustration of how a baby develops in the womb, right? You can see at 1 month. So this is the first stage where an embryo is formed. Then from there, the fetus starts to grow. Second month, third month, down to the ninth month. And you can, if you look down, you can see the key things that develop as the month progresses. I think at first, the brain develops, the heart. Then from there, other parts of the body begin to develop and form in the mother's womb. And as most of us know, pregnancy is full term when it's up to 40 to 42 weeks. So next slide, please. All right, so there are different branches of embryology, actually, because I know when we hear embryology, most people just think, okay, you just you work in an IVF clinic, work in an IVF lab, put on scrub, go into the lab, develop an embryo, and that's it. That's not it. There's actually more to embryology. There are different branches of it. There are different aspects of it. We have the descriptive embryology. In this part, this set of people, the set of people in this field, they just check the morphological description of different embryonic stages in the autogenetic development of individuals of different species. So you can see it's not just humans, they're even focused on. You can even work with animal models and like that. Then you have comparative embryology. This one just basically focuses on the anatomical changes during the development of different organisms. Like I said in the last slide, you can see while a baby is growing in the womb, there are different anatomical changes that are occurring. The baby does not just start having hands and legs at the very beginning. From it's take after some weeks, some couple of time, the baby would start developing more and more things. I don't think anybody has seen a baby being born with teeth before. The teeth must have developed quite all right, but after the baby is born, it's still going to take like some time for the teeth to start being growing physically. Then we have evolutionary embryology. This part majorly focuses on the organism's ancestry. So you check how evolution changes over time. You know, if even in the history of human, we're not like this at first. I think some people argue that we were apes before evolution started changing things, and now we can stand on our 2 feet, we can do things on our own, unassisted, you know. Then we have experimental embryology. This one majorly involves different different mechanisms that are involved in development of animals, like fertilization, cleavage, gastrulation, embryonic induction, determination, and differentiation. I'm going to talk more on this as we progress. We have behavioral embryology. This one just focuses on, you know, when you talk about behavior, you're talking about brain function, right? So you're talking about neural development, behavioral development. So it majorly focuses on the neurobehavioral ontology of individuals. And we have chemical embryology. This one just studies various, it employs various biochemical, biophysical, and physiological techniques for understanding embryologic events at molecular level. So this just goes to show that you don't just have to study cell biology and genetics to become an embryologist. Like I said before, I studied biochemistry, right, in my first degree. So there are other aspects of science that are incorporated in embryology. It's not just the genetical aspects. Then we have teratology. This one just, it deals with abnormal development. I think we've heard of birth defects, genetic diseases, genetic conditions. So teratology majorly focuses on how genetics and environment can affect normal development of a baby, and how it can produce birth defects, how it can be avoided, how it can be managed, and things like that. So, stages of embryonic development. I'm just trying to give you guys the basics of all of what embryonic development entails, so that you can have a clear understanding of everything embryology. Because without this basic foundation, it's not just enough to just go into an IVF lab. You have to understand what you're going to see, what you're going to be working on. So this is stages of embryonic development. So at the first stage, okay, so I can't use my cursor. You won't be able to see it. But if you look to your left hand side, let's work with it. Yes, thank you, Davis. Let's work with the left hand diagram. So you can see the fertilized egg, right? This is the very first stage. At this point, the sperm and egg are fused together. So fertilization has occurred. Then from there, remember I said something about mitosis. That's cell division, right? Mitosis starts, then you now have the two-cell stage. The cells begin to divide to form two cells. Then from there, division occurs again. You know how mitosis occurs. From two cells, would divide to give you two. The other one would divide to give you two. The other one would divide to give you another two. So from there, you're having 4 cells, right? So you have the 4-cell stage down to the 8-cell. You can see how it's replicating. The 8-cell, 16-cell stage. Then we now have the blastocyst stage. So it's at this blastocyst stage that from there, cell differentiation. I think we should know what cell differentiation is, where our cells start to divide and form specialized parts of the body. So cell differentiation begins at this blastocyst stage. The diagram on the right is basically the same thing, so we can just skip to the next slide. All right, so I purposely put this diagram because in an IVF lab, this is how it's going to look like. You see that one I put before, that's just just to make an appealing graphical illustration. Actually, it's not going to be colored like that. This is how it's going to look under the microscope when you're viewing it in an IVF lab. So in the lab now, we see once after we do after the first day of fertilization, the second day, that first day, we actually call it day 0. That's why you're seeing day 1 here. The first day, we call it day 0 because nothing has happened. We just only inseminated, right? So on the second day is the day 1. This first one here, Davis, this first one that you're seeing just 2 pronuclei inside. So this is the second day. Or let me say the first day, don't let me confuse you. So this is the first day after fertilization has occurred. This is what you're going to look out for to now be sure that, yes, fertilization has occurred. If you do not see this on your day 1, if you don't see your embryo or your zygote looking like this on your day 1, you know that, okay, nothing has happened. Fertilization has not occurred, or you're going to have a very slow developing embryo, and that's already a problem in itself. So on the first day, this is what we look out for. So these 2 things inside, that's what we call a pronuclei. So we call it 2PN, 2 pronuclei. The nucleus, this nucleus, one from the male, one from the female, to form a zygote. You know that fission has occurred, fertilization has occurred. So you keep looking out for your embryo, right? On day 2, this 2 cells, on day 2, you could have either 2 cells or 4 cells, actually, because sometimes development might be a bit faster than usual, but it's normal to see. If you see 2 cells, you're fine. If you see 4 cells, you're fine too. So seeing either of these 2 is normal because it depends on the timing. Like, for example, this day 1 now, we usually check 17 hours, 16 to 18 hours after insemination. So let's assume you're inseminating. Let's assume you inseminated by 4 p.m. now today. So what time are you going to check for your fertilization tomorrow? Anybody can answer the question. Remember, I said you check 16 to 18 hours after insemination. So it can't be 4 p.m. 4 p.m. will be 24 hours after. So assuming we did insemination today by 4 p.m. So what time should we be looking out for our 2 p.m. tomorrow? You can unmute yourself and talk. You can drop a message if you want. Okay, someone dropped a message and said 10 a.m. Another person said 8 a.m. Okay.
2 p.m.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
9 a.m.
Okay, so if you say 8, 9, 10, you're good because we're looking out for 16 to 18 hours, right? So 16 hours would be 8, 17 hours would be 9, and 18 hours would be 10. Because if you go a bit anything too later than that, you might miss seeing that's 2 p.m. Miss it in the sense that, yes, you're right, 8 to 10 a.m. Thank you very much for the answers. So you might miss it in the sense that after some time it would disappear in preparation for mitosis, right? So after some time it disappears. So if you check too late, you might think you don't even have fertilization, whereas you've had fertilization but it has disappeared. But then if you check much later again, you now see that you've started forming 2 cells. In fact, sometimes when you check on day 1, you see 2 cells already. It have fertilized, it have started mitosis, and it have started having 2 cells. So on day 2, you look out for 4 to 2 cells. That's like 24 hours after you do your FET check. We call it FET check, fertilization check, right? Then on day 3, we're looking out for having like 8 to 12 cells, right? Because division keeps happening like every time. Then on day 4, we have something we call a morula. At this point, we're having like so many cells, like over 32, is 16 to 32 cells, and sometimes we have more than that. But imagine having 32 cells in this, should I call it small round thing? So it's not going to be, you won't be able to. Hi, Simisola, can you please mute yourself, please? Sorry, thank you. So it won't be showing so visibly like when you have your day 2 embryos, like you can see the cells very big. Because mind you, as it's dividing, it's getting smaller, right? Because if you see now on this day 2, these 2 cells, they are looking large. On day 3 now, they're already looking smaller. So it's compacting. That's what we call it compaction. So on day 4, you have compaction, and then you have a morula. Then on day 5, differentiation starts. So now starts this around it, you have the trophectoderm cells. Then you have your inner cell. You see this thing that looks like a mountain. This one here that looks like a mountain like this. I'm talking. Yes, exactly. Yes, thank you, Davis. That particular one, that's the inner cell mass. That is your baby. That is what is going to form the baby or the fetus, right? So if we have the 5 embryos that do not have inner cell mass, don't bother doing an embryo transfer, because I don't know what you're transferring at that point. You know, so that is the part that is going to make the baby. So the trophectoderm cells is what is going to further divide to form. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this second diagram just gives a better illustration. So you can see the inner cell mass. And I think this writing is not clear. It's what forms the baby. Yes, that one. Then trophectoderm cells is to differentiate to form, I think it forms the amniotic fluid and the placenta. But in an IVF lab, at this blastocyst stage, right, this is the point where you have to transfer your embryo into the woman's uterus. So you can transfer on day 3, you can transfer on day 4 and day 5. This is saying day 5. Please just go back a bit first. This is saying day 5/6. Why? Because remember I said sometimes your embryos can be a bit slow with the development. So a normal growing embryo would get to this point on day 5, but sometimes they may not get there until day 6. So if you keep it to day 6 and you have this, you can go ahead and make your transfer. But mind you, any embryo that does not blastulate on day 5 or day 6, don't bother transferring it. It's not going to give you a good result. So don't bother. So those are ways that we check, that we grade our embryos to determine the ones that we transfer and the ones that we don't transfer. Thank you. So this part now, this is what happens inside the body. What I just explained is what happens in the IVF lab outside the body. That's the artificial method, but this is the natural method. So on day 1, it's in the you can see this part of the fallopian tube where we have a secondary oocyte, right? So after sexual intercourse, I'm going to be a bit raw with some words because I believe that we're all adults here. And if you want to go into embryology, you're going to be ready to say a lot of things the way they are, right? So after this is day 1, the oocyte is released, right? You can call it oocyte, you can call it egg. Then fertilization occurs. You can see the sperm cells moving around the egg. So there's this phenomenon in developmental biology. I don't know if you've been taught where, like, have you ever wondered why only one sperm cell enters the egg? There's this phenomenon where once one cell has entered, right, the oocyte is going to release an enzyme to now lock up. It's going to lock back up, so no other sperm can enter. So this is to avoid polyspermy, because imagine all you need is just one sperm, just one, to donate its nucleus. That's all. So imagine you're having plenty sperm in an oocyte. So I don't even know what that is going to result to. So anyways, when fertilization is occurring in the body, right, it's traveled through the fallopian tube. So you can see it's zygote stage. It's moving. Just look at the arrow. Look at how it's moving. So on day 2, 2-cell stage, it keeps moving and moving. Then on day 5, because this is where implantation is going to take place, this part of the uterus. So on day 5 or day 6, right, implantation is going to occur. So it's at this point that this is why the embryo cannot stay in the IVF lab past day 5, day 6, because at that point it needs somewhere to attach to, right? So if it doesn't have somewhere to attach to, it's actually just going to die. So at that point, we need to do an embryo transfer so that it can attach to the woman's uterus. So this is just how it happens inside the body. All right, so let's go to applications of embryology. You can use it for developmental disorders, congenital abnormalities, genetic conditions. And how do we apply embryology in this case? So when you have your embryos, there's something we call PGD, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, or PGT, pre-implantation genetic testing. So this one is just to check, use it to check if your embryos are normal, if there's any form of chromosomal abnormality, if your embryos have maybe monogenic diseases like sickle cell, for example. So embryology has evolved such that you can now check, you can even check for the sex of your embryo, because some people will come and say they want boys, they want girls. It happens now. The world has evolved to that extent. So there are some tests that you can carry out in the lab. You check for all of these things in order to determine the optimal embryo to transfer. Because imagine you've done a test on your embryos and then you see that there are chromosomal abnormalities embedded. You're not going to go ahead with the embryo transfer, because what are you transferring? No. So you can also apply embryology in regenerative medicine. I'm sure, have you heard of embryonic stem cells before? Embryonic stem cell. Have you done stem cells before? Okay. That's one person. Stem cells. You've not? No. Okay. Wow, the no's are plenty. This is interesting. I feel like we're going to need another webinar to talk about that. But okay, let me just give you just the basics of what stem cells are. Right. So stem cells are unspecialized, undifferentiated cells that can be that can be programmed into specialized cells. So there are different types of stem cells, different types. I'm sure maybe you're in lower department. I'm sure as you advance, you'll be taught all of that. So there are different types of stem cells, but the most potent stem cells are embryonic stem cells. Why? Because they are pluripotent. Pluripotent means they can form any part of the body, any part at all. I don't know if you've heard of cases where they now grow liver in the lab, or they grow brains in the lab and kidneys like that. Like if somebody needs a kidney transplant, for example, and you are not able to get a donor, before you know it, they'll just do some kind of magic in the lab and they develop kidney that will match the person's blood type and everything. So this is where embryonic stem cells come into play. That's why it's called regenerative medicine, right? So embryonic stem cells help in treating diseases and injuries by harnessing the body's ability to repair and regenerate tissues. It has been applied in so many diseases, like so many. There's a lot of research on it, a whole lot. I don't even want to start going deep into it now, because it's going to make us deviate. But there's so many research on embryonic stem cells. So if you look at this diagram now, if let's use this diagram for example, you can see, okay, the sperm and egg, they join, right? Fertilization occurs, the embryo develops for 5 to 7 days, blastocyst. Now, you see what they do, they remove the inner cell mass. Mind you, I said the inner cell mass is the part that makes the baby, right? So when they will take out the inner cell mass, you can actually now culture it in a kind of laboratory where you can program it to differentiate into what you want it to differentiate into, because that inner cell mass has everything, because that's what's going to form the baby. I mean, the baby is a human being, so the baby has everything. It has the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the kidney, everything. So they're going to program that inner cell mass such that it's going to form different kind of cells, any cell they want. You can see it can form skin cells, neural cells, skeletal muscle cells, all sorts of cells. So they change the laboratory conditions and they can program it to form a kidney or form a liver or something. So that's regenerative medicine. There's, like I said, there's a lot of research on it. You can just read up, and I can share you links on that later. So let's go to the next one. We have reproductive medicine. Now, this is where the clinical embryologists come in. Reproductive medicine, assisted reproductive technologies, ART. This is where you have your IVF. This is where you have IVF. IVF is in vitro fertilization. In vitro meaning outside the body. In vivo is inside the body. So in vitro is outside the body in the laboratory. So we're going to really dwell on this as we go. All right, so okay, this is the like what I was saying before, application of embryonic stem cells. So for regenerative medicine, I've explained how that works, where they can program the cells to grow a particular part of the body, right? Then for drug testing, because these embryos, they have life in them. So sometimes they can use them to test drugs without having to use animals, because sometimes even after using animals to maybe test an antibiotic, now you give it to human beings and then you see that human beings are still reacting to it, whereas when you tested it on animals, the animals were fine. But when you use embryonic stem cells to carry out this kind of research, you'd have almost, in fact, you have maybe 100% accuracy, because that's basically using a part of the human body to test it already. So if it's going to affect us, you will know that it's going to affect the human. But if it's going to be fine on the stem cells, you know that it's going to be fine on human beings, right? Then you can use for studying diseases, like I think I've mentioned that. Then for research, basically. Okay, so let's go to the cocoa of today, which is where clinical embryology comes in. Assisted reproductive technologies, ART. So after you've known the basics of how embryos develop, right, and what you're expected to see in the during embryonic development in the lab, you need to understand what ARTs are. Has anybody heard of assisted reproductive technologies before? Or you've heard of, I'm sure everybody must have heard of IVF before. Has anybody heard of IVF before? Okay. So let me open the floor. What do you understand by IVF? Why do people do IVF? Okay, everybody's saying yes. Feel free to unmute yourself and talk. Oh. No, Davis, not you. Let someone else talk. What do you understand by IVF? No, I want you to talk. You said maybe people who have fertility problems. Okay. So what an IVF is simply artificial insemination. Okay. In IVF, the egg is removed from the woman's ovaries and fertilized with sperm in the laboratory. Okay. Show me that you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to say the reason why people do IVF is when they have difficulties in getting their getting fertilizer, they have fertilization issue. That's when they do IVF.
Have what issue?
So it's not always
Fertilization
just,
issue.
yeah, just yes, most of the time they have issue with fertilization. And they actually, maybe
Okay.
they are actually fertile, they can produce and they can produce egg. So just doing the fertilization outside the body. That's what it means.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to talk? Feel free to talk. This is an interactive section. Feel free to talk, please. People are just dropping messages. If you don't want me to hear your voice.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
So I think IVF
Hi.
is done to assist infertile couples to have babies. So maybe they have issue of fertilization. So fertilization is done in the assisted reproductive clinic. So to ensure that fertilization takes place, then the fertilized egg is transferred back to the woman's uterus.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I like your answer. It seems like you people have done a lot of research. That's good. Upcoming embryologists, well done. So okay, everybody's saying people that have infertility issues. What could cause infertility issues? Okay, let's even start from here. Who do you who would you point out now and say this person has fertility issues? How would you diagnose infertility?
Hello, good afternoon.
Samuel, you're raising your hand. Okay, who wants to?
Yes, I believe
Everybody's raising up their hand. I'm enjoying
issue
this. I can't hear you clearly. I can't hear you clearly. Please, can we try to talk? Because all these messages, they are all coming at the same time. Let's just talk one by one. Okay, Samuel, you're trying to say something. Samuel, follow me.
yes.
Please go
I
ahead.
hope everyone can hear me. So, issues with fallopian tubes, probably blocked
Okay.
fallopian tubes or damaged fallopian tubes can cause infertility as one way
Okay.
to kind of.
All right. Thank you. Mustafa, you're raising up your hand.
Okay, yes. So infertility can be from both the man and the woman. So from the man, the
Thank
issue
you.
can be from the type of sperm that are being produced. Like when
Type
the
of
sperm,
sperm.
yes, when the sperms are not normal, like sperm without tail, two-head sperm, and so on, or watery sperm as well, or the
What's
number
your
of
sperm?
sperm, yes, or the number
Okay.
of sperm per ejaculation too can cause
Okay.
infertilization. Yes, then
Thank
from the
you very
woman, I think
much.
the type of egg that is produced.
Okay. That's great. You people want to come and push us out of business. So. All right. Abdul, you're raising off your hand.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. I can't hear you clearly.
Yeah,
Anissa,
basically from
I'm going to
what
allow
I've
you to talk.
yeah,
Hi, Amide is not my answer.
all right,
I can't hear you clearly, please.
all right. From what I've heard and what I've seen, basically, I feel like um reproductive issues basically stem from the inability of the egg to be implanted in the uterus of the female.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
That's what I.
Ayomide. All right. Thank you. Ayomide, you're raising off your hand.
All right, good afternoon.
Good
So,
afternoon.
what could cause infertility? In the case of a woman, you could refer to hormonal imbalances like PCOS and ovulation. And in the case of a male, too, it could be the ejaculation, sperm produced by ejaculation and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Anissa, I think you sent a message, but I think I would like you to talk, if you don't mind. Okay, I don't think she wants to talk. What about her fats? You're saying some. You seem to be onto something. All right, let me just read a few messages then. Is that
Hello?
okay? Is someone saying something?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
show me the. Are you saying something?
Yes. Um, so you said that I have a question, and apart from that, and I want to contribute also. The first thing is that
Okay.
I know we say that fertilization, there's a particular, we say that if we know that people will not be able to get fertilization if they have an issue with the sperm, like sperm motility and sperm morphology, like shape of the sperm and
Yes.
whether they can move. Um, But what if the person does not produce, one of the partners is not producing any gamete at all? What are we?
Okay. Good
What
question.
is there any term for that? Or is it different from
Right.
infertility and uh, the way I'm getting in my mind now is seems to be in two ways. That
Yeah,
means
I like that
because
question. Very
IVF
good
now
question.
involves
And I'm sure, very good
gamete.
question. And I'm sure you people will have more questions. Just, you know what? Just be writing down your questions as it's coming. Just be writing everything, and I'm going to answer every single one of them. Okay. So let me write down that question. I'm going to hold on to the thought, and I think I'm going to mention something like that as we progress. So let me quickly read these two messages. About two answers about my question earlier. So Harafat said infertility is when couples are unable to become pregnant, usually after 12 months of unprotected sex. Okay. Ruti said infertility is a condition where you can't get pregnant after 1 year of trying to conceive. Okay, causes of infertility could be ovulatory disorders, endometriosis, low sperm counts, or low testosterone. Awesome. You guys have done so well. Like, I'm really impressed with the answers that you've given me today. And you're mostly correct. Mostly correct. So yes, infertility, like Parafat and this other person. Sorry, who was this just now? And Ruti, yes. Like they said, you diagnose infertility after couples have been having unprotected sex for a year long and nothing is happening, like a year straight, no break, no this person traveled for like 2 or 3 months, that kind of thing. You can now say, okay, yes, there's something wrong. You need to go and have a check and have a look. And it can be caused by different things. You're all correct. It can be from the man's side, it can be from the woman's side, it can be from both of them. On the woman's side, we have things like blocked fallopian tubes, we have endometriosis, we have hormonal imbalance, we have low ovarian reserve. We have age. Nobody said anything about age. Age is a very big factor. I mean, you don't expect a 45-year-old woman to be as fertile as a 25-year-old woman or a 30-year-old woman. So age is a big factor too. And there are other factors. We have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. We have a couple of things. And on the male side, we have low sperm counts. We have poor morphology of the sperm. Like someone said something about sperm having two heads or two tails, and I was so impressed. Aisha, you're raising off your hand. If it's a question, please just write it down. Or do you have something you want to say? Go on, Aisha. Or is it a mistake? Oh, it was a mistake. All right, no problem. Okay. Okay, so what was I saying? All right, so on the someone said, I've forgotten who, but I think it was a lady said something about two tails, the sperm having two tails or two heads. I'm sure we all know the structure of a sperm, of the egg and of a sperm, of how it should look like, because morphology is very, very important in this field. Very, very important. You need to know what you're looking out for. In the lab now, if you see a sperm with two heads, you jump and pass. If you see a sperm with two tails, you jump up. You know that there's something wrong there. It's not going to give you a good embryo. It's probably not even going to give you a baby, or that's when you probably not start having chromosomal abnormalities. So there's a lot to consider. So you can have poor morphology for the sperm. You can have very, very low sperm counts or even zero sperm counts. There are cases where there's no single sperm in it, they ejaculate at all, nothing. So there are other things, and sometimes diseases. Maybe the person has cancer, like prostate cancer, or the person smokes a lot. Some people smoking does not affect them, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Sometimes heavy alcoholic use and smoking and all of that, those are things that could cause infertility. Then so ART, can you please write down your question, Ruthie? I'll come to it. Just sorry, 1 second. So ART, um, like the name implies, assisted reproductive technologies. This is assisted. It's not natural. It's not the natural way of conceiving. It's an assisted way of conceiving. And what does it aim at? It aims to treat infertility, right? It aims to help couples conceive, help them have babies and grow their family. So it can also be used to prevent genetic disorders. I don't know if you remember when I said earlier about how there's this test, PGD, that you can do the test to check if the embryos have any chromosomal abnormalities, right? To check if if the embryos have chromosomal abnormalities or any genetic disorder that could come up. Because imagine you've checked your embryo has a problem in the chromosome number. Normally, chromosome number is what? 46, right? Altogether. So you've checked and you say that your embryo is having 44, or instead of 46XY or 46XX, you're having 46XXY or 46XYY or something very abnormal. You know that, okay, there's a problem. It is embryo. There's no need to transfer it, because the transfer is two things to happen. One, it could lead to miscarriage. Sometimes miscarriages can be a blessing. You never can tell. You don't know whether there was something wrong with the chromosome number. And two, if the baby is able to make it to term, you could have a genetically malformed child. That's when you have things like Down syndrome, Edgeworth syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and a lot of them like that. So these things can be avoided through ART. So ART helps to prevent, can also help to prevent that. Now, you have different types of ART. Someone said IVF is artificial insemination. I'm going to just correct you there. IVF is not artificial insemination. Artificial insemination and IVF, they are two different things. They are under ART. So there are different types of ART. So under ART, we have IVF, in vitro fertilization. This one is just when you just do the whole thing in the lab and then you transfer the embryo to the woman's body. Then IUI is artificial insemination. It simply means intrauterine insemination. Just if you look at this diagram here and see intrauterine insemination, that's IUI. So it's also known as artificial insemination. In this case, you don't have to take out the eggs. You can just do the normal stimulation within the body. Then the only thing you need is to just take out the sperm, prepare the sperm, then put it into the woman's body directly. That's all. It can even be done at some people do it at home safe. That's all. So it's not, you don't have to take out the egg and develop the embryo outside. No, just put the sperm inside the body. Inside, not just inside the body. You make sure the person is ovulating, right? Excuse me. Then we have ICSI. This one is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Yes. Or this diagram down. In this case, we take the eggs one by one. This is mostly done for people that have low sperm count and poor morphology. For those people that have like two head sperm or two tail sperm. So you just pick the sperm cells. You know how sperm cells are millions of them. You pick it one by one. So you pick the one that you can see that is morphologically good. You pick one and put one into one egg, because it's just one that you need. So one sperm per one egg. Then we have something we call FET. This one is frozen embryo transfer. This one is after you've done maybe your IVF, and then you have leftover embryos that are like really good, and just freeze them and then you transfer later. You can thaw it later and then you transfer later. Okay, brief history of IVF. I'm not going to draw too much on this. I don't want to bore you at all. So IVF, it didn't just happen from nowhere. A lot of research went into IVF, right? So in 1977, these two people, Patrick Steptoe and this should have been Patrick Steptoe and Robert Edwards. They were the very first people to produce the first IVF baby in the UK. The first IVF baby, she was born in Manchester, UK, 25th of July, 1978. So it's not even too long ago. How many years was that? 1978. How many years? Is it up to 50 years? It's not even up to 50 years. No. So they were the they were the first people to produce the first IVF baby. But mind you, prior to that, other forms of research have been going on and on concerning IVF, regarding fertility, right? So in 1923, some people identified the female hormone because IVF, it's not just enter the lab, pour sperm and egg, have embryo. That's a lot of things have to go into it. So there's a lot of hormonal regulation, especially on the female side. So this in 1923, they found they identified the female hormone estrogen. In 1929, someone identified progesterone, and these are two key hormones when it comes to pregnancy and ovulation and pregnancy, right? Then in 1944, someone developed hormone supplements for fertility. If you check now, there are hormone supplements being sold out there, both for both male and female. Actually, some men too, they have low sperm count. They can take some hormonal drugs, and before you know it, they'll be able to boost their sperm cells. So then in 1950, they started doing IVF testing on mice and rabbits. 1960, there are some drugs to boost fertility. 1968, they were able to retrieve and fertilize human eggs, but I guess maybe it didn't make it, or they couldn't do a transfer, or when they did the transfer, there was no pregnancy. That's why they could not. That's why they didn't develop a baby, right? And in 1969, they fertilized the first. Medical researchers fertilized the first human egg. So this is just like history of IVF. And by the 1980s, they had already recorded over 1,000 IVF babies in 1986. Trust humans now. Once something works, everybody picks it up. So since that 1978, everybody now started looking into IVF. Before you know it, they had up to 1,000 IVF babies by 1986, which it's not even up to 10 years later. Let's say 8 years later. Then how did IVF come into Nigeria? In 1984, this Professor Oladapo Ashiru, he was the first to pioneer IVF in Nigeria, and he delivered the first Nigerian IVF baby in 1986. Then this one was in Lagos. Then in Anambra, another person, Joseph Ikeche Belu, and his team, they were able to deliver the first IVF baby in Anambra in 2011. August 6, 2011. So it's not, IVF is still an emerging field. It's not like it has been in existence from the 1800s or something. No. So what are the stages of IVF? Right. I think I've talked about some of this, but let me just take it again. There are 4 main phases of IVF. Ovulation induction. This is when I was talking about the hormonal drugs and regulation that is going to be done, because normally every month a woman produces 1 egg. Actually, normally after you see your period, before after some time you ovulate, you're just going to ovulate only 1 egg, just one. Except in some rare cases where some people ovulate 2 or 3, and then you have twins, triplets, naturally, not through IVF, naturally, right? And then for identical twins, it's just 1 egg, right? Just 1 egg, and it divides to now form 2 embryos. So that's why they're identical. The DNA matches, everything match, because it's just from 1 egg and 1 sperm. So, but doing IVF, you need to now give so much hormonal drugs such that the person would not just be producing only 1 egg. You can be producing up to 10, 20, 15. So imagine the amount of hormones that have to go into it. So this is what happens during ovulation induction, because such that after the egg retrieval, you can retrieve 20 eggs, and then you see that only maybe 15 will fertilize. And then after that 15, you now say, okay, let's keep the embryos, let's see how they grow and develop till day 5, day 6, where you're expecting to see a blastocyst. And then you see only maybe 8 that will become a blastocyst. So you should know that the remaining one just separate them first of all. So out of that 8, you can now decide, okay, maybe we transfer 2 or 3 and then we can freeze the remaining. And sometimes you can even get plenty eggs, and then you don't even have fantastic embryos. You end up only transferring 3, and that's all. The rest are not fantastic, right? So that's the first phase of IVF, the ovulation induction. You induce ovulation such that the person can produce so many eggs. Then the oocyte retrieval, obviously, after, because we monitor it, we use scans to monitor it. So when you see that the follicles have grown very well, follicles are where the eggs are in. They are in follicles in the fallopian tube. So when you can see that, okay, the follicles have grown very well, because you can't see the eggs with through scan, you can't see it with naked eye. You can only just measure through follicles. So when you measure the follicles and you see that they've grown very well enough, maybe after some few weeks, a week or two, and say, okay, you do the oocyte retrieval, then you retrieve the oocyte. Oh, another thing I failed to mention is, for example, if you have that 20 eggs now, after the oocyte retrieval, you cannot see that your oocytes might not even be mature. Because if you have immature oocytes, you cannot have fertilization. I don't know if you've been taught oocyte maturity. There's something we call GV, M1, M2. M2 is the fully mature oocyte. Just give me 1 second.
Hello, everyone. So, just like we said earlier, if you have any questions, just save them up, or after the presentation, we'll take questions. I hope we're enjoying the webinar already, because there's a whole lot that's been said. Yeah, just before I forget, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just before I forget, I know a lot of people will be going for their IT in next semester, their COS. So this is a very good foundation that you're already getting to understand what you'd be probably facing in those labs, when you'll be encountering some questions that will be asked of you, and you just be saying it, you'll just be thinking, this person, were you an embryologist in your former life? Yeah, so things like that. And so after this webinar, I really advise that I don't know, probably our speaker would will allow us to share the slides, so some of you can just go through them, understand them. I think in the second semester, or third year, second semester, you do this. I think the second semester, third and second year, you still do developmental biology. So this is more like an advantage to you. You're getting a knowledge before it's even been taught in school. Yeah. So okay, I think our speaker is back. So please, your questions, save them to the end of the webinar.
Thank you, David. Sorry about that short break. So sorry. So yeah, what he said, right? I just realized that I think maybe some of you have not yet done developmental biology, and when you do it, you have a clearer understanding of all the gibberish I'm saying here. So, but this is just, you can just hold on to this. At least when that time comes, it's to give you a really good insight into what I'm saying, right? Okay, so there's something we call, there are 3 stages of oocyte development. We have GV, M1, M2. GV, M1, immature. M2, mature oocytes. So sometimes, let's say we have retrieved 20 oocytes, you can end up having just like 10 M2s, 10 mature ones. See those other 10, just shift them aside again. Then from there, you fertilize. Not everything might even make it. So that's the essence of stimulating, we call it stimulation, stimulating the ovaries to produce plenty eggs, because you don't know the one that you will see. Imagine you just do the normal ovulation and you just produce only 1 egg, and that 1 egg is not mature. What's the point? Okay, so we have ovulation induction to produce a couple of eggs, then oocyte retrieval. Then after we retrieve the oocytes, we now have the fertilization. Fertilize in the lab, then from there you do your embryo transfer to the woman's uterus, hoping that she would get pregnant, right? So once implantation is successful, she's going to get pregnant. If it's not successful, she's not going to get pregnant. I think you should know by now that IVF is not 100%. No, but even when that tells you IVF is 100%, we all know it's not 100%. So there are other newer technological advancements, like the genetic screening. I think it is what I've been talking about how you can test for if there's any genetic disorder within the embryos, check for monogenic diseases like sickle cell. Yeah, you can check for that. You can check for sex of the embryo and all of that. Then gamete cryopreservation. Cryopreservation just means freezing, freezing off. In the layman language, it means freezing the gametes. You can freeze sperm, you can freeze egg, you can freeze embryo. You can freeze egg when you're ready to fertilize. You thaw it, you fertilize. You can freeze sperm when you're ready to fertilize. You thaw it to fertilize. You can freeze embryo after you've already done fertilization and you have some leftover embryos. You can freeze the embryo, or if you see that the woman's body something is happening that she's not yet ready for that embryo, you freeze it. That's embryo cryopreservation. And then when time comes, you do what you call FET, frozen embryo transfer. We thaw the embryo, we thaw it, we have another process of thawing, then we do an embryo transfer. Then ICSI, this one, I think I've said this before, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, meaning intracytoplasmic, inside the cytoplasm of the egg. Take one sperm cell, inject into the cytoplasm of the egg. That's basically all that it's about. So these are types of ART. So ART is not just IVF. There are different aspects of ART, right? The point is you're doing it to assist the couple and help them get pregnant. Okay. The question we have all been waiting for. How do you become a clinical embryologist? Very, very good question. First of all, who is a clinical embryologist? Let's even start from there. Because I've mentioned other branches of embryology, but clinical embryologists, who are they exactly? So the clinical embryologist is basically the person that handles all the gametes, handles the sperm, handles the egg, handles the embryos, right? So at different stages of IVF, within an assisted reproductive technology lab, that one is just long talk. So within an IVF lab or an embryology lab, that's all. So what do? They perform in vitro fertilization procedures. They're the ones that carry out the IVF. You see, but there are plenty of people involved in IVF. You have the fertility doctors, you have fertility nurses, you have the embryologists, you even have accountants, those people that are making sure that the client pays their money. You have other people. But let me tell you, clinical embryologists, they are the most important people. Don't let anybody deceive you. You have to take your honor with pride, like own it. One of the most important people, because if we're not able to fertilize the embryo and produce fertilize the egg and produce an embryo, what is the doctor going to transfer to the man's body? What are they going to get? How will they get pregnant? If we don't give them a good embryo to work with, they can't get pregnant. So we are the backbone of any IVF establishment. Quote me, I said it. So what do? We perform in vitro fertilization procedures. We conduct regular assessments of health and development of embryos. I think I've mentioned that when it comes to how you check your embryo morphology and you do genetic screening and all those things. Then we maintain records and samples to ensure testing and laboratory work remains consistent. You see, the part of embryology that nobody actually likes, but is inevitable, record keeping. You have to keep records you have to keep records more than you keep records in your own personal life. Because you must not jumble anybody's record together. Imagine you have done fertilization now today for Mr. Whose name can I use? I don't want to mention someone's name here. But okay, let me use my name. For Mr. and Mrs. Osato. On the same day, so you have embryos for Mr. and Mrs. Osato in the incubator. On the same day, you now still have another Mr. and Mrs. Musa. On the same day, in fact, you now have another Mr. and Mrs. Musa, maybe Mr. and Mrs. Musa Yusuf, and you have another Mr. and Mrs. Musa Aisha. Can you see that? Imagine embryo transfer day comes now. You now mistakenly give Mr. and Mrs. Osato embryo to Mr. and Mrs. Musa. Sure, they're not going to call you police, arrest everybody. It's not going to be a funny situation when DNA comes out. It's not going to be funny at all. They will arrest you, your father, your mother. They will arrest all of you, the whole office. They will arrest everybody. They will shut down the IVF clinic. It's not, so there's no room for mistakes at all. You have to keep records like your life depends on, because it does. It really does. So when we work in the IVF lab, we work with like culture dishes. Asiatic, we label, and the way we label, you will label, you go tire, you will write it there. Mr. and Mrs. boldly, Mr. and Mrs. Osato, so that any other biologist that is coming will know that okay, this embryo is for this person. You know, the other one, Mr. and Mrs. Musa Aisha, the other one, Mr. and Mrs. Musa Yusuf. You have to, you know, be very detailed, very, very detailed, record keeping. And as you've written it on the dish, you will have, in fact, the lab where the office I'm working at the moment, they want to use paperwork to kill me because I just started there this month, you know. So in my previous office, we do a lot of paperwork, quite alright. But you see this new one, the paperwork can kill somebody. You have paperwork, you will write, you would fill form, you would fill in a book, you will fill on the system, you will fill online because you don't joke with records at all. Anything can happen. Even the person that was there before me, all the things that he or she must have done from how many years ago. In fact, if you need record, if somebody comes today with a 10-year-old child that they did the IVF procedure to give birth to that 10-year-old child in my office, if you just give me your name, I can go and dig up your record. That's how much, like, it cannot be overemphasized. You have to keep records. You have to. You don't joke with your records at all. You have to keep records. So, of course, we now have quality control because, like I said, it's not just wake up, go to work, wear your scrub, enter the lab. There's a lot. And these garments and the embryos that we work with, they are very, very sensitive. It's not your regular. It's very, very sensitive. Very, very. As it is now, I don't fix my nails. I love to fix nails before, but I can't fix my nails in the lab again. Can't use makeup. You can never see me say I'm going to the lab and I'll be on makeup. Anybody that see me, they would take my license away if possible. Because what are you using makeup to do in an IVF lab? You know, there are some things that you have to just put in place. Make sure your temperature is optimal. Make sure you're checking your pH of everything. Make sure you're checking everything because, especially for your incubators, because the incubator is built such that it's as if it's inside the woman's body that is happening. And then we use a lot of materials, media, to now give those embryos the nutrients that they need so that you feel like you're collecting it from the mother. It's a very technical thing, very, very interesting. But so quality control is very, very important. So writing, reviewing, and improving embryology standard operating procedures, normal, just follow your SOPs and all of that. So what's the requirements now? What do you need to do or to have in order to become a clinical embryologist? All right, so you need to have background knowledge of developmental biology. Very, very important. Like what I gave you earlier is just this is getting interesting. I know it. Okay, so what I gave you earlier is just maybe like a preamble or just a small touch of what you need to know. You don't joke with your developmental biology. You go read, Tanya. You will read your You can't be lazy. You can't not like to read and be an embryologist. You have to read. You have to read. You have to know everything there is to know about the egg, the sperm. You know, I think that's why we have gametogenesis, right? You want to understand your gametogenesis. You need to understand oogenesis, spermatogenesis, embryogenesis. You need to understand everything there is to know about developmental biology, especially with humans. Obviously, we don't deal with rats. We deal with humans. So can imagine how sensitive it is. No room for mistakes, right? Then for your course, what do you need to study? Well, I'm happy to inform those of you that are doing CBG that CBG is number one. I'm not saying it's only CBG you need to study, but CBG is hot cake. It's hot cake there. Because some people would even say, like me now, where I trained, I was so lucky that they didn't mind that I studied biochemistry because I used my biochemistry to get the job. Jubilating because I said CBG. Okay. So cell biology and genetics, because I mean, if you study cell biology and genetics, I believe anybody that says that you study cell biology and genetics, you know that yes, you should know everything there is to know about developmental biology. I think they, at some point they will even teach you in biology, basic biology, you know. Then genetics, when you're not talking about genetic screening and everything. So you should have basic knowledge that you need to do embryology. What else is left? So then the other courses too, biochemistry, like I studied, there's microbiology, part CBGs. Okay. There's microbiology, there's anatomy, there's physiology, biology, and sure, things that are biological sciences, science related courses, right? So I don't think I've seen someone that studied computer science in biology before, or someone that studied what else, industrial chemistry or chemistry. I don't think I've ever seen it. So biological science courses, and it could be on BSc level. If you have BSc, you're good. If you have MSc, you're even better. Great. But if you have BSc, you're good. You're very, very good to become an embryology training, right? Or masters. Like me now, I'm about to finish my master's program in cell biology and genetics because I thought about it like, okay, what course can I do in my master's level that is closely related to embryology? And then I know about CBG. Why not? Let me become a CBG to a part CBG to like that person said. So yeah, very, very good. It boosts you. Then what other skills do you have? Because it takes a lot to become an embryologist. It's not just go to school and come out. The world is evolving. You need to have a lot of skills, behavioral skills, technical skills, very, very important. You need to have strong interpersonal and communication skills because if you cannot talk, if you cannot relate with people, IVF is not just the embryologist. You cannot just be in the lab and not. You see the doctors and the nurses, for example. You people have to work together. You have to talk to each other every single time. And you might not even be. You might not even be the only embryologist there. You might have like 2, 3 of you. You people have to be in constant communication. There's not a world where you people fight because sometimes when you do things in anger and when there's a lot of miscommunication, imagine the record keeping now. Before you know it, you have scattered everywhere. Before you know it, you have gone to give Mrs. Osato's embryo to Mr. Musa, to Mrs. Musa. Before you know it now, everywhere is scattered, you get. So you need to be able to have, in fact, for any job, I think for any job at all, they always write strong interpersonal and communication skills. So I think that's a normal thing. Attention to details. Oh my God. Attention to details and perfection. There's no room for mistakes. Me that I was even able to do my master's and I was still working. I don't even know how I did it. I should know that it was God that was just doing it for me because, I'm thinking of school, I'm thinking of my exams, I'm thinking of work. It wasn't easy. So it was a lot for me to not lose focus on either of the two because you must not, embryology is not where, it's a thing of, if you have personal issues, because nobody is without issues, nobody is perfect. There's always something that will come up. Anything that is personal that can frustrate you, as you're entering your office, just keep it on by the gates. Just keep it. Because if you carry it to the lab, it's not going to be funny. Young pepper scatter scatter. It's not going to be funny at all. So you need to be focused. You need to pay attention to details. You need to be a perfectionist. If you're not a perfectionist before, when you're in the lab, you'll be a perfectionist inside your lab. Because there's no room for mistakes. There's a lot to keep up with. There's a lot to do. But it's back to back. There's no room for mistakes at all. Then we have hand-eye coordination. If you've watched videos of embryologists, if you've seen pictures and videos, you see that we're always working with the eyes. We work with the microscope a lot. You see this egg and the sperm. You can never see it with your naked eye. Never, ever, ever. Never, ever, ever. Anybody that can see it, they should come and go with their eyes. You need, and it's not even just the normal light microscope that you're seeing in your CBG lab that you will use. There's something called stereo zoom microscope. That one, because it's a very small and minute, like very, very small. So you need this kind of microscopes to work with. And so imagine you want to maybe do an embryo transfer, or you want to do an injection, do ICSI now, or any form of insemination. So you cannot, like you need your hand-eye coordination, right? Because as you're looking at it through the microscope, your hand is working. So if you're not looking at it through the microscope, your hand cannot know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be seeing through the microscope. So the hand-eye coordination has to be perfect. Your eye is focused, your hand is focused. So no room for mistakes. Time management skills. You can, in fact, I'm sure earlier when I told you about 16 to 18 hours, you check your for fertilization, this. So there's timing for everything. For example, after your egg retrieval, your egg is not meant to stay without being fertilized for more than 6 hours. Within 2 to 6 hours, you do your insemination, rather, your fertilization, right? So things like that. There's time for everything. You have to always check the time. For example, after a man produces a sperm sample or a semen sample, because at that point it's still a semen, there's timing. If you imagine, let's say you leave the bottle now where the sperm is, just leave it on the table like that. AC is blowing it. Just give it 2 3 hours. The way the sperm cells will die. You want to check them, you just see them lying down. They're not even moving. What do you want to use to inseminate your egg? So there's time for everything is timed, everything is programmed. As you're working, you're checking the time, you're timing yourself. Okay, if I finish my egg retrieval by 10, by 12, I'll go back to the lab, do my insemination, or by 1 or something. If I do my insemination by 12, and then, or in fact, you have to time yourself such that if I do my insemination by 12, meaning I have to go and check my embryo in the middle of the night, that would be like around 5 6. Does it make AM? Does it make sense? Won't I sleep in my house? So let's say I now drag, since I still have like 2 to 6 hours to inseminate. I drag till like maybe 2 o'clock. From 10 to 2 is 4 hours, I mean, okay. Or I drag till 4 o'clock. Let's say 4 o'clock. So by the time I drag till 4 o'clock, I know that okay, by 8, 9, 10, know how I would have gotten to the office the next day. I cannot do my first check. Do you get? So your brain is always calculating, like you're always thinking, like, okay, what you do today that will tell me what you will do tomorrow. Let's say you have done your egg retrieval today, Monday now, or today, Saturday now. Then you should know that your embryo transfer would fall. Saturday is your day 0. So your day 1 is starting on Sunday. Sunday is day 1, Monday is day 2, Tuesday is day 3, Wednesday is day 4, Friday is day 5. So you should know that by Wednesday, you can do a transfer on day 3, you can do a transfer on day 4 or day 5. So within these 3 days, you should be doing your embryo transfer. So you have to always, there's no room for mistakes, Sha. That's all I can say. So there's nothing like you forgot that you're supposed to do embryo transfer. You now, thank you very much, confidentiality. I forgot to write down here. Confidentiality, because you can see me now, I'm guessing names. I've worked with a lot of garments. I've worked with even prominent people. But I cannot mention names. If I mention names now, I'm going to get arrested, So confidentiality is very, very important. Very, very important. What you're doing in the lab stays in the lab. You don't go and tell her, if you see the celebrity that came to my office today, this so person. You don't do that. It's wrong. It's unethical. So confidentiality is very important. So then strong ability to work under pressure. If you don't know how to work under pressure, you start learning it too. Because the work will frustrate you. You work under pressure by force of fire. Then decision making skills. Anything can go wrong. Anything can happen. You need to be on your toes. You need to be able to make quick decisions. For example, you have your eggs already. You're waiting for sperm. The man is having retrograde ejaculation. He cannot produce sperm. What do? Are you going to leave the eggs like that to die? No. You think, okay, what do I do next? Time is going. You freeze your eggs. Freeze when the man produces, you thaw, you inseminate. You have to always be ready to make fast decisions. And these are things that you learn on the job. But before then, you should be able to build yourself to that extent that you can make decisions on your own. Then you have to be ready to work outside stipulated working hours. Yesterday was holiday. I went to work. Today now, it's because of God I was able to dodge today's work. So luckily for me, I don't get to work today on Monday. Thank God, till Tuesday. If not, sometimes, you see the next holiday that is coming, the Muslim holiday, I'm not sure. I can't tell you if I'm going to be free or not. That's why, Davis, if you notice, I kept on postponing because I wasn't sure. I needed to be sure that, okay, so this thing would work for me. I was even praying that I won't even later message you and say, today cannot work again, because that's how it is. That's how it works. Work can come at any time. Imagine now they've put somebody on ovulation induction now. They're stimulating the person. And then they now see that, we need to do this egg retrieval on Sunday. Or if we don't do it on Sunday, the follicles will rupture. Am I going to say I will not go to work? I will go to work. We have to start retrieval. We have to go to work. And by so doing, you have to inseminate, And imagine that Sunday is your day 5 for your embryo transfer. You will go to work. So you have to be ready to work outside stipulated working hours. It's not an easy field at all. It's not. But you'll be fine. See this record keeping. I think I've overemphasized on that one already. You don't joke with you keeping your records at all. You don't joke with it at all. And also you have to know how to use the system. I hope you're able to use the system because the world is advanced and things are digitalized now. So you keep record on book, you keep record on online, like that. Stages in embryology career with salary. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for you now, all of you now, undergraduates, I don't think anybody here has even entered an IVF lab before. So when you're going to start now, you're going to start as a trainee embryologist. That's how you're going to start. And how long that's going to take is going to depend on you and your clinic. For me, let's say officially, I stopped being a trainee in 6 months because 2 things. I'm a fast learner. I was very fast. I knew that I'm ready to do this thing. I was fast. 2, the person that trained me, my boss, she was ready to, in fact, she's ready to let you do everything. Because some people, you go to some places and go and train and they will not tell you, they will tell you don't touch anything, just be watching for 6 months. In fact, for some people, a year, 2 years, they've not touched anything. They're just going to work, coming back, collecting salary. So, but luckily for me, my own trainer she was ready, I'm ready to teach you. Is if you're ready to learn, we can now move forward. If you're not ready to learn, you're on your own. So this pace and the speed of your training depends on you and your trainer. Because sometimes you could be a fast learner, but then your trainer is not ready to let you do things. He's not ready to put you forward fast enough. Some people like to hoard knowledge. I don't know why. Thank God I'm not one of those people. If I was, I wouldn't be here telling you people some of the things I've told you. Some people just like to hoard knowledge. It won't take anything from you to train somebody. So because of that, it might prolong your training. Before you know it, you're spending 2 years being an embryology training because you cannot do anything. Because the person you're training with will not allow you to do anything. So first of all, it starts with being a trainee, right? And the pay depends on your clinic. Some places will pay you as low as 70, even 50,000. Some places, those ones are very stingy. You see them, try to avoid them. Some places can even pay you 100, 120. Some people can even go as far as paying you 200,000 actually. But those ones are rare. They're hard to come by, but it's very possible. Then from there, you become a junior clinical embryologist. You can become a junior clinical embryologist, and the pay could range from 150 to 350,000. Then a clinical embryologist could range from, range from 300 to 600. A senior clinical embryologist, and this comes with years of experience too. A senior clinical embryologist, meaning you must have had at least 5 years of experience, or even 6, 7 years. And it depends on who you're working with. Sometimes if you're working with people let's assume there's 3 of you, 3 embryologists now. You have a senior clinical embryologist, then there's you, right? Then there's you and another person. Before you can get promoted to a senior clinical embryologist, the person on top of you has to go now. That person has to maybe move to another clinic, or you would move to another clinic and now become the head in that clinic. So progression depends on a lot of things. Depends on where you're working and the people you're working with, things like that. But notwithstanding, it doesn't mean that once they see that, oh, you've had so many years of experience. Like me now, once I collect my master's certificates, I'm starting to increase my salary very, very because it's not easy to have masters. So those are things that affect your pay And depending on your clinic, some people don't pay. Imagine somebody that a clinic that's they pay trainee for 50,000. They can't pay their senior clinical embryologist maybe 300. They'll pay them like maybe 300,000 or something because obviously their paying scheme is low. They don't pay so well. So then we have laboratory director. This one, yeah, an Agba embryologist in the field. Yeah, so we're talking about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years experience. Yeah, going to most likely be the head. In fact, these ones, some of them don't even go to the lab again. They just designate the work. You go and do a collection. You go and do embryo transfer. They're already like big boys and big girls in the field. Then you could go into research, so research embryologists, research different things. It's still an emerging field. There's still a lot of things you can research on. There's a lot you can do. And research could involve your personal funds or grants, maybe government grants and things like that, or individual sponsorship and things like that. So there are other specialties in embryology, actually. It's not just embryology, just working with the embryos. So we have something we call andrology. Andrology is majorly focused on male infertility. Male infertility is majorly focused on the sperm parameters. They are the ones that handle seminal fluid analysis. This is to check the sperm parameters of the person. So they handle that. They handle sperm preparation because you have to prepare the sperm for fertilization. They handle a lot of things. Everything sperm, everything male infertility. Then we have genetic embryologists. I think I'm trying to look into this genetic embryology now, where I'm able to now learn how to start doing that PGD and PGT tests. Because if you can do that, the hottest of the hottest kick. But anyway, so then we have embryology quality control specialists. Sometimes some clinics will get an outsider to come and be handling their quality control, which is rare. It hardly happens, especially in Nigeria. In Nigeria, they will make one person to do like 10 jobs because actually, maybe if you're abroad now, the person that will be taking care of record keeping will be different from the person that will be doing quality control. It will be different from the person that will be handling andrology. Even this andrology, as an embryologist, you should know it because a lot of clinics, a lot of people, it's the embryologists that will be doing andrology. So you do andrology, you will do embryology at the same time. But a few clinics I've seen would have a separate andrologist or a separate embryologist. But then again, another thing about being able to do a lot of things is it makes you vast. If imagine you travel abroad now, you can travel abroad and you're coming from a place where you're doing everything. Only the embryologist is doing everything. You can become a quality control specialist. You can become an andrologist. You can become an embryologist. You can even become a genetic embryologist. So because you've dabbled into everything, you know how to do everything. They've used you. You're complaining that they're using you in your country, but then you can use it to travel out and go and make your money, Then we have locum embryologist. Locum basically means you work outside your clinic or you work on your own. Some people don't work for a clinic. They work per patient. Maybe this clinic now, they don't have an embryologist, so you can just go do the work. And there's money. People are looking for where there's money. When you have experience, just enter locum. There's money. In fact, some of us that work for clinics, we do it too. When we're free, you can just check your calendar. Okay. If I had some locum jobs now, I can just quickly fix them inside this holiday. I'm not going to be in the office. So we know. I'll go do the work, make my money. Maybe work on like 2-3 patients. You get paid per patient. In fact, you can end up making more than your salary in 1 week. Some people even quit their 9-to-5 job and just become local embryologists. It's actually quite lucrative. Or you can become an academician. Any day that they decide to bring embryology as a course itself to Nigeria, you can become a lecturer in the field. It's a very interesting distance, and I feel like they should really look into trying to bring it as a course in Nigeria, both at the master's level and even the BSc level. It's going to be very interesting and very eye-opening. Okay, so certifications. The thing about embryology is, if you really want to grow, you have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing, and like you have to keep pushing. You know, it's not enough for you to say you have BSc and you've trained and you're now an embryologist. You now sit down there. Things are advancing. You see that PGT I told you about earlier? It just came up. When did it start? When did it start existing? It just even now came to Nigeria. It's only few clinics that do it. Some embryologists are 20 years on the bench and they don't know how to do it. That's how new it is, you know. So even the ICSI is new. It's not so long that it came. So even me, I won't even lie, I'm still trying to perfect my ICSI skills. And if I don't know how to do the ICSI, you know how to do PGT. Because that one, it means it's something we call biopsy. We used to take out the cells. Okay, so for PGT, you take out the cells of the embryo and then you go and test it. You take out just small out of the cell, test it, check if, you know, all the cells, they contain the same DNA. So you check if there's anything wrong with the DNA, the chromosome number and everything, then you now be able to tell, okay, the embryo is okay. If it's fine, it's okay. If it's not fine, you know that there's something wrong. So it's a field that there is room for growth. Like I thought hard to say, okay, I wanted to even go and do my MSc in clinical embryology abroad because there's no clinical embryology in Nigeria, but there's clinical embryology as MSc outside the country. If your father has money, please go and do it. It's going to boost you. It's going to take you very, very far. If your father has money, go and do it though. See me now, my father, I'm the first one. My father said he does not have time for school for me again. So I couldn't go. It's because it's very, very expensive. We're looking at for the toppest of the toppest schools, we're looking at around £50,000. Then for other schools, we're looking at 30 something thousand pounds, 40 something thousand pounds. Convert that to naira. I can't even do the maths. Let me just get on my head. So, but if you really want to grow, you have to just check for things. Okay, so aside from masters, right, you can also do some certifications. There's this ASRM. ASRM means American Society of Reproductive Medicine. So it's an international body. Imagine having a certification under ASRM. That's going to give you a great edge. Then they have ESHRI. ESHRI is European Society of Human Reproduction and something. I've forgotten. Is it Human Reproduction and Embryology or something like that? I've forgotten the last one. You can Google it. So this falls to their international bodies. So imagine having certifications under them. They could just be short courses. It doesn't have to be masters. Maybe like 2 months short course or small training. Then you write an exam and then you get certificates to show that, okay, yes, I have trained in embryology. Then we now have AFIH. AFIH is a Nigerian body, Association of Fertility and Reproductive Health. Yeah. Okay, thank you. European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology. Okay, so I was correct. Yeah. So then AFIH Association of Fertility and Reproductive Health. So it's a Nigerian organization. I don't think they give certifications, but it's a conference. So sometimes we attend conferences and it can be very interesting because you get to interact with other people. So I think this year the conference is going to be in Abuja. Association for Fertility and Reproductive Health. Yes. So I think it's going to be in Abuja this year. Last year was in Port Harcourt. Sometimes it's been in Lagos. So we get to travel and interact with other people, know what is trending, because things are always there are new things to learn. They could even say, okay, this hormonal drug is no more working. There's this new one that works well, that even mimics the body itself. Or they'll say use this kind of incubator. This is kind of incubator. You know, there are a lot of things that go into IVF. So there's always something to learn. Then CIAN is a Clinical Embryologist Association of Nigeria. I think this one you have to pay to join the association. But these are things that would come post embryology training. Mind you, it's not something that you should, except for the MSc though. If after your BSc, your father is $10, you see that there's money choke. By all means, go on further and do clinical embryology in masters abroad. It's going to give you a very great edge. But every other one will come after you've done embryology training. Okay, so what do you need? Just complete a degree, because embryology is not as much as it's technical. It's not something that you just pick someone and say you just train the person just like that, even if you did not go to school. It's not music. You don't need to go to school for music. That's why you need to go to school. So get a degree. To get a degree, you have the necessary requirements depending on the clinic you are going to. They'll tell you the requirements that they need. You apply for internships and referrals. It's good to try and associate yourself with like-minded people. Associate yourself with people that are already in the field. Because me now, the two jobs this is my second job. Two jobs I've gotten, I've been through referrals. And the funniest part is they were through somebody that I know that went to someone I don't know. That one went to someone I don't know. How God just did it, I don't even know. I just know that I got the job, right? So referrals. Like I said, is a cycle. That's why when we go for conferences, we get to meet people that are older than you in the field. Before you know, you start making contacts. Before you know, they'll tell you, there's this new clinic somewhere, or they need an embryologist. The pay is like almost even double of what you're collecting. You pack your bag, you leave. You know, so so place they're looking for young trainees. Before you know it, you call, and then you go. So referrals is what really works, because I don't think I've actually gone online, although I've not consciously gone online to check for embryology jobs in Nigeria. But I feel like it's not something that you just see very easily. You might see, but it's not like readily available. Most people, because the work is the field is very sensitive. So people want to work with people that they can hold responsible. If, for example, now, God forbid, I go and give Mrs. Musa embryo to Mrs. Osato, they will hold me, they will hold the person that referred me, they will hold the other person that referred the person that referred me, they will come and hold my family. Do you get? So you want to be able to hold somebody accountable for this person. Like, okay, well, you are referring this person to me, you are responsible, anything that person does. So even me too now, because of that, if I know a clinic needs an embryologist, I'm not going to refer somebody that I cannot trust. I'm not going to refer somebody that I cannot vouch for. You get? So it's part of why most clinics prefer referrals. They don't post, just referrals. But sometimes online posts, and then like I said before, join IVF communities. You can join on LinkedIn, can join mostly LinkedIn, Instagram, like a couple of places, and try to utilize your LinkedIn very well, because LinkedIn really, really like puts you forward. It's a very, very good professional social media platform. Ethical considerations. This fact is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so I'm Catholic. Let me use myself as an example. I'm Catholic, and I don't know if I've heard that Catholics are actually against IVF. They're against contraception, they're against assisted reproduction, anything that is not natural. Catholics are actually against it. I think, is it Jehovah's Witness? So they're also against it. Muslims are also against it, from what I've heard. But doesn't mean that there are no Muslims that are embryologists, or there are no Muslims that come to do IVF. Muslims come to do IVF, or there are no Catholics that come to do IVF. You know, at the end of the day, it's your personal belief is very important, very, very important. Because okay, when I doing my masters, I don't know if you know Dr. Abazu. Dr. Abazu, he taught me developmental genetics. I did a course in developmental genetics. So do you know when he found out that I'm an embryologist, he started calling me a murderer. He used to call me a murderer in class. So anytime he doesn't say, you're like, where is that murderer embryologist? Where is that murderer? Do you know why? Because he said we used to discard embryos. Because so according to him, we're discarding a human being. According to a lot of people, discarding an embryo is as good as doing an abortion. It's as good as you are evil. You are the worst person on earth. Doing genetic testing. Oh, your course advisor is Mr. Dr. Abazo. Okay, so doing genetic testing where you now test that, okay, this chromosome has complete number, or this one is XXY. XXY, you didn't know that there's a problem. You know, those kind of things. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do it and do a transfer with that kind of embryo. What am I going to do? I'm going to discard it, right? Okay. Or if you're testing for some people now, sorry to say, but mostly Igbo people like male children, like anything. You see Igbo man that will have like 5 girls, they will want to stick them and do IVF so that they can have boy. So you'll come and say, so by the time we test the embryo and we see that they are mostly females, what do we do? Are we not going to discard it? So and then they feel like all those genetic testing, it's like we're already doing something that is not of God. We're doing Dr. Abazo. He's a very interesting man, though. I really enjoy these classes. But he just used to call me a murderer, like embryologist, the murderer embryologist. That's what he used to call me in class then. So, what was I even saying? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Okay, I think I was talking about your moral beliefs, right? Okay, so some people feel like doing all distance is very unnatural. The natural way is for you to give birth like the Hebrew woman, like Abraham and Sarah. You know, so it's like if you're not doing it, getting pregnant the natural way, every other thing you're doing is a sin. You're going to hellfire. IVF is a sin. You're going to hellfire. You know, discarding embryos is a sin. You're going to hellfire. So a lot of people have that belief. So there are a lot of ethical considerations regarding this field, and then so it's up to you. I don't expect you to feel. Everybody's entitled to feel the way they want to feel. Me, I don't argue at all. When they will call me a murderer in class, I'll just smile. Sometimes we'll try to argue it out, like this is what is happening, this is what's happening. Well, if you see that I'm not winning, I just leave it. You are free to believe what you want to believe, and I'm free to believe what I want to believe. But I can't imagine someone like him becoming an embryologist. With which mind do you want to use to discard the embryo? With which mind do you want to use to do the job? Because what's the point of doing something that you don't love? And embryology is one of those fields that you have to love your job. If you don't love it, don't bother. Don't bother at all, because it's people's lives that are at stake here. Do you get? So if you have that strong belief, I'm Catholic, quite alright, but if I did not exactly follow the doctrine of IVF is a sin or surrogacy is a sin or things like that, if I follow that doctrine, then I'll probably not be an embryologist today, right? So then we now have stem cell research. That one I told you that you can manipulate the what's it called? The cells, program them to produce what you want, program them to produce the liver, the kidney, and whatnot. So a lot of people have ethical considerations. Because remember, I told you that it's the inner cell mass that forms the baby. Now that inner cell mass is what they're now using to do the stem cell research. So how do you, people will be like, is a baby you're using to form a kidney? Do you get? So you have to be an open-minded person. If you're a deep thinker, like you're like, isn't it a baby that they used to form that kidney? If you're a deep thinker, you can't go far in the field. You can't. You can't at all. There's some things you have to be ready to compromise on. You have to, if you're thinking too deep about all these things, you can't go far. And then donor garments. I think someone asked me a question earlier about what if the man cannot produce sperm, and what if the woman cannot produce egg? It happens a lot, a whole lot. You'll be surprised. A lot. Like some people have severe infertility that the man is exospermic, meaning he doesn't even have sperm cell again. No matter how he wants to ejaculate, there's no one single sperm cell inside. How do you want to form a baby? Or the woman cannot produce eggs again because of age. For example, a 45-year-old woman or a 50-year-old woman, when people give testimony that at 50, give birth to twins, I'm going to just tell you free information that it's not their eggs that they used. Just have that one in your head. You don't have to say it out too, but just put it in your head, at the back of your head, when that is IVF. It's not her egg, because she cannot produce eggs again. Where is she getting the eggs from? Do you get? So that's where now donor garments come into play. So we have donor for donating eggs, and we have donors for donating sperm. So we use those garments with consent, or with the consent of the husband and wife, that this is the situation. We are going to need to use donor garments. Are you going to consent? You let them sign. There are always lawyers involved in this IVF business, because they can come tomorrow and say and do DNA and say that you're going to give them another person's baby. Whereas they signed consent though that you should use donor. So very important. It's all part of record keeping. You don't joke with consent forms at all. You don't joke with it. And confidentiality also comes into play here, because I'm not going to imagine I work with Mr. and Mrs. Musa now, and I know the female donor. Let's say they now use both male and female donor. I know the female donor. I know the male donor. Let's assume all of us now jam each other. Me and Mr. and Mrs. Musa, they gave birth. I went for naming ceremony. I now went and jammed the male donor and the female donor there. I'm not going to introduce them to each other. I'm not going to tell you this is your male donor, this is your female donor, because two things. Mr. and Mrs. Musa probably do not know they are male and female donors. Sometimes we don't show them pictures. We don't let them see this person. So you know, they will identify the person outside. It's supposed to be anonymous. And then the donors soon, both male and female, they're not supposed to also know Mr. and Mrs. Musa. I'm not going to tell you this is the person I'm going to use your sample for, so that tomorrow the male donor will not go and fight for the child that is his own child. No. So you can see the essence of record keeping and confidentiality. Very, very important. So that's that. Then we now have sex selection. People are against it, like it's not the natural order of things. Okay, so for the donor garments, right? People are against it. Like, should be naturally, it's supposed to be the husband's sperm and the wife's egg. Why are we using donor? Why are we doing this one? So as they cannot produce garments, should they not have a child at all? Should they, because of that, they should just sit down and be waiting for God to answer them, like Abraham and Sarah? Well, me, I'm also a very religious person, and I like to believe that God allowed us to discover IVF so that we can help people. If He didn't want us to be able to do all these things that we're doing, He will not let us discover it now. Abi? That's my own belief. I don't know about you. I don't know about any other person, but that's what I like to believe, because in fact, I believe in God so much that before I do anything, I actually pray a lot. Pray on the things I'm working on, that okay, God perfects it. When people get pregnant, I say thank God. I'm not going to say thank me. I'm not God. I'm not the one that did it. God just used me as a tool. That's what I like to see. So people will not say they should not use donor garments. So they should not sit down and not have a child. We should wait for God to come down from heaven and turn things around. Well, different people and their beliefs, sure. So sex selection, people feel like you should not be the one to be choosing the sex of your child. You should leave it for God to decide anything God wants to give you. Different people and their belief. Then religious beliefs too, like I said, like some Muslims are against it, Catholics are against it, some people like that are against it, So it's all depends on your personal belief. That's for me. But if you feel like you're against a lot of things that go on in ART, in IVF, embryology is not for you. If you don't have the mind to discard an embryo, embryology is not for you at all. At all. Okay. Wow. This I think I took a lot of time. This is past 6. Okay. So how will I even conclude now? I don't have much left to say, actually. I don't have much left to say. I'm just going to leave you with I think I've actually said a lot of thought-provoking things at this point. So I'm going to leave you with your own personal intention and your personal belief, like what you want to do. Like, are you ready to dabble into the field? Are you ready to, to do all that it entails to be in the field? Are you ready to are you ready to go into it basically. No long talk, no need for long talk again at this point. And then if you are, you have to also be ready to put in as much effort as you can. Put in so much effort as you can. Know the basics, know how to like try to start like interacting with like-minded people in the field, and things like that. And you find it, hopefully everything would work out very well for you. It's a very interesting field, and personally, I'm glad I chose this field. And like David said earlier, there are so many ways that we can give back to the society without having to study medicine. Because I'm sure all this biochemistry, microbiology, even CVG, a lot of us, maybe use us, wanted to study medicine. I wanted to study medicine so bad. I wanted to be a gynecologist, funny enough. But now, see, what am I doing? I'm not a gynecologist. I'm not a doctor, but I am still doing something that is towards that line, right? So there are so many things that we can dabble into, so many ways to give back. This field is a major field in reproductive medicine. You cannot say reproductive medicine without mentioning an embryologist. You cannot say reproductive health without mentioning an embryologist. No. So we're very important. And like I said before, the most important people in IVF, most important people. So I just want you to go home with that embryology is a very, very good way to give back health wisely to people, to society as large. And it's a growing field. Clinics are coming up every day. It's getting, I won't even say it's getting saturated yet. Like clinics are coming up every day. People are looking, somebody even called me each day that they're looking for an embryologist. They wanted to even employ me, and me, I'm like, no, I just got a new job. I'm not available. So clinics are coming up. They need us. They need embryologists. We need you people. We need you people to come and train and continue giving back. A lot of people are traveling out. People are traveling out. Yeah, people are traveling out with this skill. So it is still in demand. It is still in demand. So it's a really good field that you can really dabble into. Thank you. I hope with this plenty words of mine, I've been able to convince you and not confuse you at all about this field. Thank you very much for having me. So I think we can have questions now.
Yes, we'll be going through the questions really fast. Thank you so much. You can send your reactions, your emoji, and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It's really been
thank you. God bless you all too. God bless you too, everybody.
Okay, so I'll just be randomly picking the questions because there's been a lot of messages. Okay, Sumi, Kayode, you raised your hands. Can you ask the question real fast? While I check the other question. Kayode, can you hear me? Hello, Kayode, can you hear me?
The DNA of the donor.
I can't. Can you hear him? I can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes, you can go on. You can go on.
I said you talk about the donor.
The donor.
I wanted to ask that. It's not the donor gamete. Donor gamete.
Yes, donor gametes. Okay.
Donor gamete.
Donor gamete. Yes.
So does the DNA of the donor instead of the.
Does what?
Is that what you mean, that they will have the DNA of the? Do they have the DNA of the donor or the DNA of the?
Oh my God! Very interesting question. So I'm going to throw that question back at you. Because you're a geneticist. I mean, we're all geneticists here. Now you've used a donor's sperm cell that contains his DNA, right? Donor sperm cell contains 23 chromosomes of either X or Y. Then maybe you've used the wife's chromosome, the wife's egg rather, that contains 23 chromosomes of X. You know, the women always give X. So altogether, you're going to have 46 either XY or XX of the baby. So do you think the DNA of that child is going to be the husband or the donor?
To me, I was thinking that maybe there will still be a way around to get out the DNA, like the way they do in cloning. They used to denucleate the cell before they. That's what I was thinking, that maybe they just need the.
Well, I mean, you could even you can become an embryologist and do a research in that though. That's a very interesting thing you just brought up. Honestly, that's it. Before you know it, we can be able to manipulate the DNA to that extent that we can now change gene editing, Abby. Can now edit the gene such that it will have the DNA of the husband and not the donor. But right now, free information. I'll tell you for a fact that it is the DNA of the donor that the child is going to have. So that's why we say consent. They have to sign consent forms because they need to be aware that this donor's DNA that your child is going to have. Don't come tomorrow and say you want to do DNA. You did DNA test and the child is not your own. Obviously, if you do DNA test, the child is not going to be your own. It's not going to be your own because the DNA is not going to match. So that's why we tell them beforehand. We have to be very transparent with them. There's nothing like you're working with a man's sperm now. You not say that the man does not have sperm. Let me help you. Let me use a donor. They will arrest you. So you have to let them know. Then you get their consent. If you don't get the consent of them, get their consent to use a donor, don't use donor. You leave them like that. They don't get pregnant. Is on them.
Voila.
Yeah. So I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure they did. Thank you so much, Kennedy. Thank you so much, Esther. Okay, so a question here says, I heard there's a rare case of getting twins with IVF. Can you explain more on that?
There is no rare case of getting twins. There is a very high case of getting twins with IVF. In fact, I was reading up a research and they said, is it 1/3 of twins now or 1/3 of multiples, twins and triplets, even quadruplets, they are from IVF? Because
Wow.
let me explain. Like I think I said before, when you do an embryo transfer, let's say I have like 6 embryos or 5 embryos or something, and we've seen the woman's endometrium, that's the lining of the uterus, endometrial lining of the uterus, and you can see that okay, she can accommodate 2 or 3 babies. She'll be fine because not everybody can carry multiples actually and be fine. By all means, you do a transfer. You transfer like 3 embryos, and if God willing, that 3 embryos now is to increase the chances of pregnancy because the 3 might not even implant. It might be only 1, and then you have 1, but it can end up having 2. 2 might implant, and they'll have twins. And miracle can go and happen now. Miracle not the tell Jesus. Miracle will go and happen now. The whole 3 will implant. And before you know it, they're having triplets. So there's even that our AFRH is a regulatory body that we have. They are strongly against transferring 4, 5 embryos. Strongly against it. In fact, I think there was a case that happened last year. They closed down the clinic because the woman gave birth to 5 babies through IVF. 5. So I'm sure they must have transferred like 5, 6 embryos, and she gave birth to 5. A whole
Wow.
5. So I think they had to sanction the doctor. So it's not a rare case. So it's very high case. In fact, some people will even tell you they want twins, they want triplets, but we're not God. We can't say okay, it's going to happen like this. Our own is we try to give you the best chances of of having a baby by putting like 3 or 2. So before you know, maybe only 1 will work, only 2 will work, or the whole 3 can work. So people have twins, people have triplets. So most times, but most IVF multiples, they're almost never identical because different egg, different sperm. So you now have like a boy and a girl, 2 boys, a girl, 3 girls, 3 boys. Very interesting. It happens a lot. It's not rare at all. Very, very common.
Thank you so much. Another question here says the ovulation induction is carried out in the egg donor, right? So
It's carried out
in the egg donor. So how do you determine the fertility of the egg donor in order to avoid the wastage of hormonal treatment?
Yes, very good question. So, you know how I said a 45-year-old woman, we don't bother to induce her because what is she going to produce, right? But you see, egg donors, we screen them, both male and female. Female and female donors, we screen them such that because we cannot be using, what's the essence of using a male donor that does not have sperm too? There are some young people that their sperm cells are already even depleting. And then there's also some girls that their ovarian reserve is already depleting. So we screen them. But first of all, age is very important. You know that within this age, a woman is still optimally fine, right? I mean, a 21-year-old and to 25 or 26, she's obviously fine. Her body is supposed to still be sharper, like, still be on fire compared to a 30-year-old. So if you are 30 and above, don't bother coming to say you want to donate egg. What do you want to donate? I'm not saying you will not have egg, you will have, quite all right, but to increase the chances, we don't bother touching that age group. Then there are other tests that we carry out. Check hormonal level, check follicular counts to be sure that, okay, yes, this person, everything is fine within the person. Because the drugs and the hormones we're going to give, they're very expensive. We don't want to be wasting it on somebody that, at the end of the day, we'll not see eggs to collect, or we'll collect only one or two. I don't understand. What are we not doing? So, yes. So, we do a lot of screening. To check for all these things.
All right. Ruth, your hand is up. Do you have a question? We have the next 15 minutes. We should be done. Ruth, you have a question. Okay, so there's a question here.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I'm hearing you. Good evening. Ma, you talked about good evening. You talked about age. It's the age aspect I can't understand. Because you said that a 20-something can produce egg, okay, they can give birth, but why a 40-something can give birth? Because that's the aspect of doctors. Are you like telling me that 40-something can give birth?
Okay, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying 40. Are you done with your question? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm done.
Are you done with your question? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying a 40-something-year-old cannot give birth. No. Some people are very fertile. That's even at almost 50. They might even they would be able to even get pregnant naturally, safe, without even IVF. And if you check them, they even have children before. Some people that will keep giving birth till almost 50, they're still giving birth. Quite all right, until maybe they get menopausal rather. So all I'm saying is the ovarian reserve of that person has obviously reduced. In fact, it has reduced drastically compared to that of a 20-something-year-old young girl, right? Young lady. A 20-something-year-old young lady, her ovarian reserve will still be high. But doesn't even mean that there's not even 20-something-year-olds that actually have fertility problems already. There might be something else, maybe endometriosis, fibroids, there are still other factors to consider. But the chances of getting pregnant at that age is higher than at 40-something. And if a 40-something-year-old woman comes to do IVF, most of the time she has never even had a baby before. They've been struggling. And at that age, she has still not given birth. She has never had a child before. She has never even gotten pregnant before. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you not to bother to do ovulation induction. Because you can tell that there's already something wrong at that point. You've never gotten pregnant, you've never had a child. Not even say, okay, you got pregnant and had an abortion or something. So you know that, okay, don't bother to do an ovulation induction. You just go straight and just use donor eggs. But it doesn't mean that she's not going to carry the child. Now, let me explain another thing. After we now do, fertilization is going to be in vitro. So after you do in vitro fertilization, you now prepare the endometrium for carrying the pregnancy. So we'll not be able to now implant the embryo into the woman. That's why you can see a 60, 50-year-old being pregnant. So even if the woman has even gotten to menopause, there are hormonal drugs that she can take just to be able to carry the pregnancy. She doesn't even need to ovulate or say a period just to carry the pregnancy. That's all. So that's how far technology has gone. I hope I've answered your question.
What is your
Yes.
question? Okay, so we have one more question. I was just checking through the questions sent
Okay.
from email, and honestly, you've answered the questions already. So those people that sent their questions are here. I'm sure they've gotten the answers. Halimat sent a question. She said, "Does lifestyle reduce the chances of embryo implantation? And why do most people in this part of the world get so anxious about IVF because of the unsuccessful rates? Is it because of something being done wrong in the process, or the individuals themselves?"
Okay. So that question is quite big, but let me try and give you basic answers. IVF, like I said, it is not 100% at all. In fact, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot. And if somebody has told you something is not 100%, in fact, it's not even 50%. Let me even say it that way. It's not even 50%. IVF is around 35 to 40% worldwide, not even just in Nigeria, worldwide. Nobody's going to tell you 100% guarantee. It's a gamble. It's like, I see it as a very big gamble. Do you know why? Because you're not coming to spend like millions of naira on one treatment or one cycle treatment. And talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 million on one treatment that is 40%. They are not even sure it will work. If it's you, won't you be anxious? You will be anxious now. It's not easy because number one, these people are already going through a lot of emotional trauma. Do you know the trauma it is? You're married. It's not like you say, I'm not going to have a child. You know, some people will say, okay, they don't want to get pregnant yet. Maybe after they enjoy their wedding for like a year or two. But you want to get pregnant. You've been married. First year, no child. Second year, you're trying. Third year, your emotional state of mind is already going to be affected. These people, if you look at them, that's why you need a good interpersonal skills, and you have to be very patient. Because when you come and interact with them, they'll even be insulting you. I know you just look at them and you'll be like, it's not their fault. It's what they are going through that is the problem. Because they are going through a lot. No matter how rich they are going through a lot. It's a lot for you to feel like you're not having a child. You've been married, you're not having a child. And you know, society is something that our country, they will not forgive you. It's look as if you've committed the biggest sin in the world. You're a useless woman, you're barren, you're this, you're that, you get. So I think all those things are part of what caused the anxiety, right? Not because they're expecting something to go wrong, no. But mind you, a lot of things can go wrong too. There are a lot of things that can affect the success rate of pregnancy. There's sperm quality, there is egg quality, there's embryo quality, there is endometrial readiness. You can have a very fantastic embryo, and then sometimes when it's time to do an embryo transfer, you will not see that the person has plenty fibroid, or her uterus isn't inverted or something. There's something different or something that will make it like that this embryo is not going to implant. In most cases, in a good clinic, they will not even do an embryo transfer. They'll probably freeze the embryos at that point. Or there are some things that will be happening inside that you will not even know, that cannot exactly be dictated with the scan. And then you will not do an embryo transfer, and then it will not work. So normally they will advise them, even if they don't even advise the person self, you've paid so much money, you know that you're undergoing a process. Nobody needs to tell you don't take alcohol. Nobody needs to tell you don't smoke, don't do some things, don't stress, and and these people, they are always they used to have OCD, they're always so particular about this thing. So they will always be Googling. They already know self that they will not even want to stress. They'll even be exaggerating some things. They'll put themselves on bed rest. You don't even need bed rest. So they'll put themselves on bed rest just to try and do everything possible not to be able to get pregnant, right? So there are so many factors that can affect success rate of IVF. And when IVF fails, nobody can come and tell you this is why. We don't know. The only thing I can know, at least I can vouch for myself and so embryologists I have worked with, is we do our best. Even the doctors and the nurses, we do our best. Everybody is doing their best because I won't exactly be working extra hours or putting in so much energy to do examination and do fed check tomorrow, only for the person not to get pregnant. We're not happy to. Emotionally, too, it can affect you as an embryologist. And if you're not working with somebody, a doctor that is not understanding, they'll not start saying you people are not doing your job well too in the lab, you know. But that's something that you want to avoid as a good embryologist. So I can't exactly say this is what causes IVF failure. No, but the only thing is we to try everything possible that we can to reduce it. For example, now that PGT I talked about, that PGT is the future of IVF, is the future. It's in fact, it's not going anywhere anytime soon because I know I said something about miscarriages. One thing that causes miscarriage, because it's not enough for someone to get pregnant. It's not enough. It's what we are looking for is to give birth to a child, to have a life birth, to not have a miscarriage, to not have a stillbirth, to not have a preterm, to have a full-term pregnancy and have a life birth. Because chromosomal abnormalities, one the major thing that they cause miscarriages a lot. A lot. So imagine you've done your PGT screening now. The thing that some people just do transfer without doing PGT screening because PGT screening is very expensive. I'm talking about 10, 15 million just to do PGT screening. So most of the time we just do transfer like that based on morphological appearance, like what we can see that okay, this embryo has inner cell mass, is looking fine. There are ways we grade it, right? Then we just do a transfer. But if you go further to now do a PGT, PGT will tell you what's happening inside the embryo. So those are ways measures that we can take to increase IVF success rate. So by the time you now check and you see that these ones have chromosomal abnormalities, you shift them aside. You know that, okay, don't even transfer this embryo at all. So you not transfer the ones that are optimal. So, and at the same time, even after transferring the ones that are not still very normal, you might still not get pregnant. That's the sad part. After spending almost 20 million on one cycle. So it's a lot. I can't blame them when they're anxious. I can't blame them when they're anxious at all. It's like you've written your exam. You're going to be anxious now till you see your results and now become, oh yeah, I had A, I had B, I had this A, G get. So it's normal for them to feel anxious. I think it's normal.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, just before the last question. So that's SCBG exam. So Faith, you have a question. After Faith, we'll be taking our last question from Victoria. Yeah, Faith, you're up.
Good evening, Ma. So from like when you were speaking, you spoke about like how like busy you were and how like you're not even sure you're going to be around today and all. So as to my knowledge, I didn't think that IVF was like widespread in Nigeria. I just thought it was like just for a few people. So can you explain like how did that happen? Because up until a few years, I thought like IVF was still widespread. I mean, not widespread.
IVF is booming. Trust me. The reason why you don't know is because number one, IVF clinics you cannot advertise. You know, medical field you cannot advertise. You don't advertise. All I put it, it's not a thing of come and buy one Omo, get one free. No, what are you advertising IVF? It's as if you are praying for people to have this situation, so you don't advertise. But you would be surprised that a lot of people are going through infertility. Even me too. This shocker that you're saying, it was when I started working at it, it shocked me the most. Because when I was hearing it, the first time I even heard about it, I'm like, hey, what's the IVF? So I didn't even do it in Nigeria. I know it, I got into the system. And then I see people every day. People are coming. Like, this is the second clinic I'm working at. In fact, I've even done locum in some other clinics, and people are coming. But we have over 20. 20 is small. We should be having almost 50 clinics in Nigeria now. Maybe 20, 30. And all the clinics have patients. People are coming. People are going through it. You know, people are going. Did I say in Nigeria? That should be in Lagos. People are going through it though, so you'll be surprised though. You know, it's a very underground something under G kind of. So even the job, you can't easily get the job like that. So you can't easily just um. They don't advertise it, so it's not something that you're seeing people patronizing very often. And then our society, you do IVF finish, you don't want to say you do IVF. You say God did miracle. Okay, no problem. We know that is IVF, but let's not just loud it too much. So it's only later, when somebody sometimes when Abio God did, but it's still God, Sha. It's still God. So when you know sometimes when people have done their own and it has worked, you now see that your one friend that you've been lying to all these years that it's God or it's God. Your mind did not touch you. Okay, let me just introduce this person. So people, it looks as if they are going to herbalists. People go to clinics as if they are hiding to go to herbalists. So it's always very secretive about it. You know, can tell if you ask now, you see that maybe one of your auntie or your uncle somewhere has even done that with you. No.
I think it's the society also. The society frowns.
Yeah, society.
Somehow they're like,
the stigma is too much. It's too much. Because some people will tell you IVF babies are not normal. They are not like normal children. It's a lie. They are very normal. They're very regular. If I'm an IVF child, you will know. They are very regular. They are the same as you and I, or because the person did IVF now, so you're barren, you are this. They shall did IVF. They shall have a child. Leave them. Let them rest. So the stigma is too much. That's why some people don't talk about it. And then medically, you don't advertise things like this. It's wrong to advertise any medical thing. That's why if you notice, you don't see hospitals doing adverts on TV. You can't see it. It's wrong. They can close down the hospital. So you don't advertise. You can only advertise malaria medicine. You cannot advertise the hospital to go to treat it. Do you understand? So that's it. So that's why it's looking like there's nothing happening in Nigeria, but a lot is happening. A lot.
Okay, so Victoria says, please, can you give instance where a surrogate is involved?
Okay, so some people want to watch their figure. Very few cases. They want to watch their figure. Let the surrogate carry the baby. I don't want my BBL to go, or I don't want my flat tummy to go, right? That's in few cases. But in most cases, there's something wrong with the endometrium. The endometrium cannot house a baby. It happens. Some women cannot carry pregnancy. They cannot carry pregnancy to term. Some of them, maybe they will even get pregnant. They will keep having miscarriages, recurring miscarriages. They can't carry pregnancy to term. Or there's just something. Some people don't even have womb. I don't know if you've heard of hysterectomy. When we don't have womb, they can't even carry a child. So that's cases. Those are cases that require surrogacy, and you get a surrogate to carry the child for you.
All right. Okay. Israel. Okay, Israel just put his hand down. His hands were up. Okay, Israel. What's your question? We are really running out of time. Israel, quick one. Your question.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma. Thank you
evening,
for
sir.
the whole enlightenment, so to speak. We know infertilities or fertility issues now in Nigeria is quite a thing, and
Yes.
some people are of the opinion that the fact that they are undergoing or they currently have infertility issues is like a stigma, or is classified as, in our society, it is seen as a wrong, right? Are there any symposiums, any sensitization programs that are being carried out to sensitize people, to let people know that, okay, the fact that you are having this issue doesn't make you this. There are ways around it, blah blah blah. Do we have those
Yes, we
programs
do.
around?
We do.
That is
We
my
definitely.
question.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of them actually. That's why I said, as time goes on, when you start joining IVF communities, you'll be surprised. Like up until 2020 when I became a trainee, I did not even know that there was anything like IVF. But the moment I entered the system and I started interacting with other people in the field, you will see that a lot is actually happening. And I feel like it's not even much enough because people still don't know. More can still be done. And that's where you and I can come in. We can create more awareness about it. So but we still need more. There's still much work to be done.
Okay. Anissa says, I stumbled upon a statement recently that IVF in Nigeria is more successful compared to abroad countries. How true is that?
Okay, and Anissa, you're going to have to unmute yourself. You're going to have to unmute yourself, please, and explain
The question is a special
how you stumbled upon it. What exactly you stumbled upon? Why I can know how to answer it.
Okay, good evening, ma. So I was
Good
watching a
evening.
TikTok video recently where a embryologist was like explaining how people come down to Nigeria, even foreigners to do it in Nigeria, that is more successful. So I couldn't get the reason why it was more successful in Nigeria. So that's what I'm asking. Like for a doctor to come out to say that, is it just marketing or is it true? Is there any science behind it or something that we are doing in Nigeria?
You see why I wanted this to be very interactive? Because you are the first person telling me something that I don't even know. I'm just hearing this for the first time. Because I even thought you were even coming from the line of Nigerians actually come back to do it here because it's cheaper here. Imagine you are there now, you're paying like $40-something thousand, $30-something thousand, whereas you can just come to Nigeria and pay 2, 3, 4, 5 million. Do you get? So even plus your air tickets plus your everything to used to come to Nigeria, it's still not even going to be up to what you would have spent abroad. So that's where I even thought you were coming from. Because that's what I know about that area. But now that you're saying the said is more successful in Nigeria, me, I don't know that one. No. I'm just hearing it though. In my mind, it to be more successful abroad, self, because they've advanced further over there than we have. We used to travel to go and learn from them and come back. So if it's true, myself, I'll do more research on it. I'll do more research. But I know Nigerians usually just come back to do it because of price. It's price that makes them come back to do it here. Price. Not from what I know, not success rates, but you never can tell. Maybe a new study has actually come out, like you said. So I think I have something to go and read up on now. Thank you. Thank you for giving me more work.
Aisha, are you there?
Yes, we have raised my hand.
Sorry.
Hands
are already.
So what I want to ask that we don't know that anything aside from natural how you can conceive naturally is usually expensive. So for people that have infertility problems and they cannot conceive naturally and they don't have money for artificial stuff. So in that case, how do they now give birth?
My dear. It's just two things because you see, IVF is not a business of charity. I'm sorry to say. You can hear me now. I've been calling millions. It's not a business of charity because the things we use are very expensive. One incubator alone, if you don't have 20 million, 10 million, 50, you cannot buy it. ICSI machine alone, the ICSI that we do, if you don't have 40 something million, 70 something, you cannot buy it. So you can imagine then minus the consumables, the media, everything is expensive. The personnel is expensive. In a good standard clinic, you don't pay your biologist anyhow. You pay your biologist better money. You pay your doctors, fertility nurses. They are like fertility doctors and fertility nurses are one of the highest paid doctors and nurses on the spectrum. So you can imagine the field is everything about it is expensive. So for somebody that cannot afford it, I don't know. Well, you can pray like Abraham and Sarah, maybe anything can happen. Or they're actually now charity organizations. So there are charity organizations now that help with that aspect too. I think that's also like what Israel asked that time, if there's any field or any way to sensitize people. So there are charity organizations that actually, like NGOs, they help people that cannot give birth. So they can pick maybe one or two, maybe like 5 people in a month to fund their fertility and their IVF treatment. So people do it a lot. People do it, and you can partner with the social clinic. Maybe if you're partnering with this clinic now, they can give you good discount since you're going to be bringing a lot of people and it's NGO and all of that. So there are different ways to help. But aside that, you just money has to be involved. Money has to be involved. Unless the clinic too, maybe they want to, sometimes some clinics to also do free treatments. They can do maybe okay, every 3 months we just do random free treatments for somebody. They do it. Some clinics do it too, just to give back to the society. But that's only so far you can go because it's very expensive. Imagine we're doing free treatments for plenty of people because you don't have money, don't have money. You won't be able to afford to pay me my salary. Please, I wanted to pay my salary. So I think we just need, maybe we need more NGOs too that can assist in that aspect, so that by the time you gather funds from investors, from people, and then you can now be able to fund 1 or 2 people's treatments like that. But money has to be involved, sure.
Aisha, is your question answered?
It is. Thank you.
All right, we have 20 minutes. Samuel, your hands are up. Or was that a mistake? Okay. I'll take that as a mistake. Maybe he has. Okay. Our final question. Our question. Yeah.
Okay.
Faith, I was just read out.
What was your question?
She said cases like endometrium, are they genetic disorders?
Oh, okay. Oh, and I think what you meant to say is endometriosis, not endometrium. Endometrium is a normal part of everybody's body. Everybody should have endometrium. Every woman should have endometrium. So endometrium is where the baby is going to grow. So what you are now saying is endometriosis. And endometriosis is like an infection of that area, right? So what's the question? Sorry. I think it's written.
Disorders.
This is like, okay, is it a genetic disorder? No, it's not a genetic disorder. Genetic disorders are disorders that can be passed down, right? So it's not a genetic disorder. It's something that can just develop over time. Because if it was a genetic disorder, it would have happened like early on, but it develops later at maybe at adulthood. So it's not a genetic disorder. But yes, it can be treated, or something that can be dealt with drugs. Yes, it can be treated. Can be treated. Sometimes, in some cases, the person might need surgery.
Okay. All right. I guess that's all we have from this end. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
I personally enjoyed this session. It was educative for me, and I'm sure every other person found interest. Those that were probably not sure about embryology, you've probably gotten something you can always hold on to, and remember that this webinar came through. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad I did this too. So that at least you know that I have upcoming embryologists already.
Okay. So I'm sure many people would want to. Okay, so how do people locate embryology labs or IVF labs?
Google it. It's on Google. Once you Google IVF clinics, you would see. You definitely see a list of them.
I know some people would want to do their IT as USD, and so they want to start asking how do I.
So what you want to do, you will bombard them. In fact, you should be ready to do pali trekking. Like you hold your pali and go and drop it. In some cases, because if you do online, they may not even answer you. You do mail, or you hold your pali and hustle it. And then if you now have connections, if you meet people. But the truth is, for IT level, You hardly see people that want to train you. Who's going to train you as an IT person? I doubt though. They might just put you somewhere. Maybe you'll be doing blood tests or something. But then you never can tell. You can try. IT is just 3 months now, Abby. So
Yes.
me personally, if they want to bring a trainee for me, I don't want an IT. Why are you bringing an IT person for me? Because you are not going to be there for a long time, right? Because like I said, embryology